Hey, what's going on, guys? I just wanted to start this video by letting you guys know that in the last intro that I did, where I jumped onto my chair,
previously on Bring Halo Back versus Chair.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
I hurt my leg pretty bad. I had like a sharp pain in my leg for a while, and there's still some numbness in my leg. I don't know what that's all about. I got an x-ray. It wasn't a fracture or anything. I was surprised because I hit that bitch hard and it fucking hurt. And it didn't feel right. But I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm definitely not going to be doing those intros anymore. It was fun. Well, actually, it was terrible. It was terrible while it lasted, but yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give that up. Jumping on my chair at the beginning of every video is probably not the best thing for my body.
Perfect.
Alrighty, so there it is. We got a new chair. It's a race car chair. I didn't want to get a race car chair, but I needed a new chair immediately. My old chair was ass. It was killing my back because I had no back support because I like to sit up straight like this. And my old chair, the back reclined. I couldn't adjust it. This guy, you can obviously pull him up and adjust it, so that's nice. I understand there's better options out there, but like I said, I needed a new chair now, so I just hurried up and bought this guy. I will say that this chair is a whole hell of a lot better than my old chair. I mean, obviously, because my old chair was like 5 years old, I believe. I got my old chair the night Halo 5 released. Like, it was coming, like the midnight launch for Halo 5. I ran out and bought a new chair for Halo 5 because I was so excited about Halo 5. And oh boy, was I fucking let down. Anyways, so that chair's gone. That's a memory now. But yeah, this thing's it's all right. It does kind of hurt sitting in it for several hours straight, but whatever. I'm dealing with it. So anyways, before we get into the video, I got a special surprise for you guys. I got my good friend Uber Nick on the line, and I wanted to ask him what he thinks of my brand new race car chair. Of course. Thank you, Nicholas. I was thinking the same thing. But now, let's get into the video. For quite some time now, I myself and many others have criticized some of the later games in the Halo series for straying away from that core formula that made the original 3 Halo games so great. For the most part, Halo 1, 2, and 3 are looked upon as the most beloved games in the Halo series. Halo Reach is kind of a mixed bag, but it's definitely not classic Halo, and a lot of people dislike Halo 4 and Halo 5, and for very good reasons. Now, I've discussed time and time again why I hated Halo 4 and Halo 5 so much. I've discussed why I wasn't the biggest fan of Halo Reach, even though there are a lot of aspects of that game I do really like. I've explained why I believe Halo 1 through 3 are the superior Halo games. I've explained why I don't think Halo 4 or Halo 5 feel like a Halo game should. And how should a Halo game feel? Well, maybe like the first 3 Halo games did. You know, Halo 1, Halo 2, Halo 3, the first 9 years of Halo. 3 games and 9 years, I'd say that is enough to define a franchise. Not saying that franchise can't change or evolve, but it needs to stay true to that core formula that made the first 3 games so great. I've been saying these things for a long time now. A lot of people in the Halo community have. But one thing that I haven't really made a video on is how I think Halo should or can evolve without changing that core formula. I actually did make a video on this a while back around the time Halo 5 came out, but that was like 5 years ago at this point, and honestly, I don't know if that was the best video I could have made. I may not have presented my ideas as effectively as I could have. I don't know, it's been a while since I made that video, and I'm not going back and watching it because old videos like that make me cringe. But anyways, that was a while ago, so that's why we're doing a new video on this topic, how Halo can evolve without destroying that core formula, without destroying it like Halo Reach, Halo 4, and Halo 5 did. And hey, real quick before we actually get into this video, I'm going to give you guys a little heads up. Spawning players into the game with 7 abilities that were not present in Halo 1 through 3, the first 3 games, the first 9 years of Halo, yeah, that's not a proper way of evolving the series and staying true to that core formula. No, that's throwing that core formula out the window and doing something completely different that feels nothing like Halo.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Like, there are ways to evolve this series and staying true to that core formula. And I mean, like, it's as if 343 isn't trying. Because with Halo 5, the latest entry into the Halo series, the latest mainline entry into the Halo series, they gave every player 7 different abilities that you have at all times. Yeah, there's a little cooldown to things like thrust, but it comes back in a couple seconds. So you have these abilities at all times. They're not on the map to pick up. It's not like you only pick one. No, you spawn in with all 70, and I think it's 7, but you spawn him with all 77 of these abilities. Like, that's not even trying to stay true to that core formula. That's not even trying. That's not even close to how you should properly evolve this series. I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. If there was a new Counter-Strike game with all these new abilities that were not present in Counter-Strike Global Offensive, you know, abilities like the ones we see in Halo 5, yeah, Counter-Strike fans would not be happy with that. Now, that would actually create a huge divide in the Counter-Strike community, because then you would have some people who enjoy the new Counter-Strike and some people who enjoy old Counter-Strike. There would just be this huge divide, kind of like what we have with Halo. So the question is, how can Halo evolve? How can Halo change while still respecting and maintaining that core formula that was present through Halo 1, 2, and 3? So before we get into my ideas about this, I want to take a look back at how Halo evolved from Halo 1 to 2 to 3. You know, when people ask me how can Halo change while still staying true to that core formula, some of the times I'll tell them, well, you do it the same way Bungie did it, with Halo 1, 2, and 3. And don't think that's some kind of cop-out to the question. No, that is definitely a valid answer. So let's take a look back at these games, starting with Halo CE. What was Halo CE? Well, on the surface, it was a pretty simple, straightforward game. And don't get me wrong, there was a huge skill gap in Halo 1. There were still plenty of things to learn. But as far as things like map design and player movement goes, it was pretty straightforward. You know, anybody could just pick up a controller and they knew what they were supposed to do in Halo 1. Doesn't mean they're going to be great at the game, but they're not going to be lost. After Halo CE, Bungie gave us Halo 2. And Halo 2 is a much different game than Halo 1. But at the same time, it still feels like Halo. It stayed true to that core formula that made the first game so great. And yet, it was different. So, how did Bungie pull this off? How did Bungie manage to do something that 343 hasn't been able to do with Halo in 10 years? Well, let's think about it. First off, the movement in Halo 2, while it was different than Halo CE, there were no new abilities. There was nothing like sprint or slide and clamber and thrust and stabilize and Spartan charge and ground pound. What are we doing? What? God, 343, man. Oh God, what were they doing? What was the thought process, guys? What the fuck? Who came up with this shit? Gotta bring it back. Calm down.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
So yeah, movement in Halo 2, more or less, it was like CE. I'd say jumping felt better. I believe you could jump higher in Halo 2, right? You could jump higher in Halo 2, right, than Halo 1. When you crouched in Halo 2 and moved at max speed, you wouldn't stand up. In Halo 1, when you crouched and you moved forward at max speed, it would stand your Spartan up. So little things like that were improved with Halo 2's movement. Also in Halo 2, we got Playable Elites. That's pretty cool, right? Playable Elites. But does that change the way the game plays? Does that destroy the core formula? No, it does not. It doesn't. Now, if you were playing as a grunt or something, yeah, I would say, okay, that's changing things up a little bit, because now you don't always know where to place your reticle when you're trying to predict when somebody's going to move around, come out from behind a wall. You might have a snipe and you might put your reticle head level, but if they're a grunt and they walk around, then obviously you need to put your reticle lower. But for the most part, hitboxes were similar, if not exactly the same, I'm not entirely sure, between Spartans and Elites in Halo 2. And you know, people loved Playable Elites. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but some people want that back more than anything. And honestly, I'm a fan of how Elites were implemented into Halo Reach, where they weren't the same as Spartans. Like, they were bigger, they had more health. They just had a bar that regen. There was no health bar. You didn't have to pick up health packs. I preferred seeing Elites in that way, and I preferred Elites having their specific playlist. I liked that most of the matchmaking in Halo Reach was Spartans versus Spartans, but in certain playlists, like Invasion, you could play as an Elite. That's honestly how I prefer Elites in Halo. You know, make them different than Spartans, make them stronger or whatever. But limit Playable Elites to specific playlists, like maybe a playlist where it's just Elites versus Elites, you know what I mean? Or something like Invasion. But I understand that's probably an unpopular opinion, alright? I get that, that's fair. Also, with Halo 2, an obvious new addition to the Halo franchise was dual wielding. And we haven't seen dual wielding in Halo since Halo 3, which released in 2007. Well, I mean, we saw it in H2A, if you really want to count that. Dual wielding was a big addition to Halo. You couldn't dual wield in Halo 1, obviously. But did dual wielding ruin that core formula? Did it make the game feel any less like Halo? I'd say no. I mean, dual wielding could have been a problem, but you see what Bungie did is when you were dual wielding, when you picked up that second weapon, they tweaked the damage dealt with the weapons when they were being dual wielded. So for example, in Halo 3, it's a 5-shot to the head with a Magnum. If you're dual wielding the Magnum, it's a 7-shot now. So that was good on Bungie's part for doing that. Dual wielding could have been a problem, but since they altered the damage dealt with each weapon when they're being dual wielded, it was fine. Also, with Halo 2, and this is going to seem like something small, but this is going to relate to a lot of the things I'm talking about later on in the video, is Halo 2 introduced gravity lifts. There was different gravity lifts on the maps. Also, on the map Ivory Tower, there was this unique elevator, if you will. It was a little platform where if you stood on it, it would take you from level 1 to level 2 and make a brief stop there, and then it would take you up to level 3. But a lot of Halo 2's maps had these lifts, these gravity lifts, multiple gravity lifts. These lifts offered new and unique ways to traverse the map. In Halo 1, we just had teleporters and ladders. Good old ladders. The fucking ladders, bro. But now with Halo 2, we got these gravity lifts, which I feel was an improvement with how it added a new and unique way to move around these maps. Also, not to mention that a gravity lift, that is something that fits perfect into the Halo universe. And not only were there gravity lifts on a lot of Halo 2's maps, there were also some other things that gave players a unique way to move around the map. Some things that acted as an obstacle that players had to watch out for. And when I say obstacles, that can mean something as simple as a fusion coil, which were not present in Halo 1, or something like the mines on the map Containment in Halo 2, or even the train on Terminal. On the map Zanzibar, there was this giant wind turbine in the center of the map, which could take players from a lower point of the map to a higher point. There was a bridge on the map Zanzibar. It had a little button on it, or a lock, or whatever you want to call it, that could be destroyed. Once it's destroyed, the bridge falls down, and it adds this new route that players can take on the map. In the facility in the back of the map, there was a button. If players pressed this button, it would open up a gate, giving players a different way to enter that building. On the map Elongation, there was conveyor belts, 2 conveyor belts with boxes on them. If players sat on the conveyor belt, it would move the player through the map. And the crates on those conveyor belts acted as sort of an obstacle. Sometimes players could use it to their advantage and hide behind it. Sometimes those crates would get in their way. The map Colossus also had conveyor belts on it, with explosives on the belts instead of crates, so you had to watch out for that. The map Turf had doors on it, something very simple, I know, but it's worth mentioning. Doors that could be opened by walking through them or driving a vehicle through them. On midship, there was a platform suspended above the center of the map, and by walking on this platform, or jumping on it, throwing grenades on it, or whatever, the platform would actually begin to wobble and move around, and sometimes it would launch your Spartan up in the air. On the map Waterworks, you had these giant stalactites hanging from the ceiling of this cave. Players could shoot these stalactites, they would fall, and could potentially kill other players. So what the hell am I talking about? Why am I talking about all these unique elements to these Halo 2 maps? Well, for one, I just wanted to point out the fact that there was more variety, more life to Halo's 2 maps than there were with Halo 1's simple, basic map design. But another reason I spent the time to go through all those maps like that, and I could have been leaving some things out, is because I honestly believe that for the most part, when it comes to evolving Halo, changing Halo, making Halo feel refreshing and new, I think a lot of it has to do with the maps themselves. I think map design has a lot to do with how you can evolve Halo while still staying true to that core formula that made the first 3 games so great. All of the ideas that I have are not related to map design, but that is a big part of it. Another way that Bungie evolved Halo 2 without destroying Halo's core formula was simply by adding a bunch of new weapons, vehicles, and game types. Now I know that's something very simple, but it just might work. That might just be enough to give players a new, refreshing Halo experience while still staying true to Halo's core gameplay. And yes, adding new weapons and vehicles to the game that are placed around the map. Every map doesn't even have every weapon or vehicle. That is completely different than spawning players into a match with 7 different abilities that drastically change how Halo plays.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Also with Halo 2, Bungie got rid of the health bar. So no more health packs. You just had this one singular bar that would recharge after you didn't take damage for a couple seconds. So, something pretty small, I know, but I just wanted to mention it because it is something different from Halo 1, and it does mean that you don't have to go searching for health packs anymore when your health is low, because it would just recharge in Halo 2. But did that destroy Halo's core formula? Did it feel less like Halo because the health bar was gone? I think not. Also with Halo 2 we had button combos. Button combos were a thing in Halo 1, but not to the same degree that they were in Halo 2. I don't want to focus too much on those just because that wasn't like a developer's choice, that was more an oversight. But honestly, a lot of people did really like button combos in Halo 2 and Halo 1. And I do have a lot to say about button combos in first-person shooters, but that's a different topic for another video. And a couple other things that I wanted to mention real quick that were new to Halo 2 was customization. Now, for the first time, you could pick both a primary and a secondary color for your Spartan. There was also emblems. You could pick an emblem, you could pick an emblem background, and you could change the colors of both of those. In Halo 2, players were given more settings that they could change within custom games, settings that were not present in Halo 1. So, we discussed a lot of new additions to Halo 2 that were not present in Halo CE, and these additions for the most part, improved the Halo experience and did not destroy that core formula that made the first game so great. There's also some things that I'm probably forgetting. I probably forgot to mention some obvious things, but you guys get the point. And I know not everything I mentioned was gameplay related. A lot of it was, but not everything. And I do want to focus mostly on gameplay related aspects of Halo. But I didn't think it would do any harm just mentioning things like customization. So now that we went through Halo CE and Halo 2, let's move right along to Halo 3. What kind of evolution did Halo 3 see coming from Halo 2? Well, I'd argue that the changes made from Halo 2 to 3 were not as drastic as the ones made from Halo 1 to Halo 2, and I think most would agree. But the obvious new addition in Halo 3 was equipment. Equipment in Halo 3 were these little gadgets that were placed around the map. Not every map had every piece of equipment on it. No, some maps only had one piece of equipment. For players to obtain a piece of equipment, they would have to walk over it. That might mean they have to fight the other team to obtain this piece of equipment. These pieces of equipment were a one-time use. They could be destroyed, and after using it, you'd have to wait for it to respawn if you wanted to grab that same piece of equipment again. These pieces of equipment ranged from things like a bubble shield that would protect the player inside, a power drain would drain enemy shields, a regen that would recharge player shields. You had flares, you had trip mines, you had radar jammers, you had deployable covers, and not all of these equipment were in Halo 3's multiplayer. Some of them, auto turrets, that's another thing that was not in Halo 3's multiplayer. So equipment in Halo 3 is not something that should be compared to abilities in Halo Reach, Halo 4, or Halo 5. Equipment in Halo 3 was definitely way more mild and forgiving than armor/Spartan abilities. Some people like to try and make that comparison between equipment in Halo 3 and armor abilities or Spartan abilities in Halo 5. It's not a good comparison. Another new addition to Halo 3 that wasn't present in Halo 1 or 2 were man cannons. Man cannons offered a new, unique way to traverse the map. So Halo 1 had teleporters. Halo 2 had teleporters and gravity lifts. Halo 3 had teleporters, gravity lifts, and now man cannons. And I know to some of you that might not seem like such a big deal, but like I said, and we're going to get into it, I think map design should be a main focus when it comes to evolving Halo, making Halo feel new, feel refreshing, but not drastically changing the way Halo should be played. Another obvious addition to Halo 3, new weapons, new vehicles, new game types. One of those vehicles was the Elephant. The Elephant was a signature vehicle on the map Sand Trap. And something as simple as that, something as simple as putting a vehicle on a map, helped form an identity for that said map. Like Sand Trap wouldn't be Sand Trap without the Elephant. Even though not many people use the Elephant nowadays, but back in the day, everybody was hopping in those elephants. But off the top of my head, those are all the bigger additions to Halo 3 coming from Halo 2 that I can think of. I'm sure there's some things I'm missing, but those are just the ones that came to mind right now. And I could name off all the new non-gameplay additions to Halo 3, which there's a lot of them, like, Forge, a map editor, a theater, more custom game options than ever before, more customization to your Spartan, the ranking system, the service record, the file share. There was so many great additions made to Halo 3, and those things matter. It doesn't have to just be gameplay, right? Like new features such as those I just named, map editors, file shares, theater modes, that's all great for Halo as well. We haven't really seen much of that in Halo 4 or Halo 5. If anything, we've lost feature. They've improved on some aspects, like Forge. Forge is incredible in Halo 5. But things like Firefight, I think many of us would argue Firefight was the best in Halo 3 ODST. And it was still also really good in Halo Reach. I didn't like it as much, but Halo Reach, we had so many crazy options that we could change. You could have like a full round of nothing but hunters as enemies. I mean, there were so many cool things you could change in Halo Reach's Firefight. You could have Firefight versus, but Firefight was something that was not present in Halo 4. Instead, they replaced it with SPOPs, and then we didn't have Forge or Firefight at launch in Halo 5. Later on, we did get Firefight in Halo 5, but it wasn't traditional Firefight. It was Warzone Firefight, which I'd say is inferior to OG Firefight. And not a lot of new big features being added to the later Halo games. We got a new game mode in Halo 5, Warzone. I think Warzone could have been great, but a lot of the reasons I don't like Halo 5 also apply to Warzone, and plus I wasn't a huge fan of the Warzone maps. But anyways, I want to make it clear that while Halo can and maybe should evolve gameplay-wise, while still staying true to that core formula, adding new features, new modes, that is also great for Halo as well. That is also something I would love to see. Just like Halo 3 did it with a map editor, theater mode, file share, an incredible new ranking system. Halo 3 did so many things right. This is obvious. One thing it did not do was spawn players into the game with 7 abilities. That drastically changed the way the game plays.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
So now that we took a look at these older classic Halo games, Halo 1, 2, and 3, now that we took a look at how Bungie evolved those games over the years while preserving that core formula that made the first game so great, let's briefly go over what went wrong with Halo Reach, the game following Halo 3. Not going to spend too much time on this because I have in plenty of other videos and it should be obvious at this point. But in Halo Reach, Bungie made some poor decisions. They introduced reticle bloom. This was really off-putting to a lot of players. It added a ton of RNG to the game. You would lose gunfights all the time due to RNG. Sometimes players could shoot their weapon as fast as they can, and luckily every shot would hit, and other players might be shooting their gun slower and pacing and still missing shots. Missing shots due to the RNG reticle bloom.
Gold.
This game sucks! This game fucking sucks!
Also, another new addition to Halo with Reach were loadouts. Players could pick from, I think it was like 5 or 6 different loadouts at the beginning of a game. Some of these loadouts had different weapons in it, so it was no longer even starts, but the main thing with the loadouts that was a problem, and this kind of leads into the next thing, which was armor abilities. Players could pick from 5 or 6 different armor abilities at the beginning of the game from the loadouts. You could spawn in with Sprint. This was the first time we ever seen Sprint in Halo. You could pick a jetpack. You could spawn in with something that made you fly. You could spawn in with active camo. A hologram. Hologram wasn't that bad, but still, it's like, why? Armor lock. You could spawn in with invulnerability. Let me say that again. You could spawn in with invulnerability. I'm going to say it one more time. You could spawn in with invulnerability. 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 You could spawn into the Halo match with invulnerability. An ability that made you invulnerable. How? I'm saying this, and it just sounds terrible. How did we think that was okay? How did we think that was acceptable? How does that make it into the game? How? There's some things, man, that it goes beyond a poor decision. It's beyond that. It's like, it's fucking sabotage. You wanted the game to fail. You hated your game. You hated your game if you're doing something like that. Now, there's a lot about Reach that I did enjoy, right? I love Reach in comparison to Halo 4 or 5. I'm not putting Reach with 4 or 5. 4 or 5 are on a whole different level of dog shit. But man, some of the things Bungie did with Reach were fucking questionable. So now, moving on to Halo 4, not only did we have loadouts, but now we had custom loadouts. So, straying even further from even starts. Even starts in Halo, that should be a staple in Halo. Always even starts, unless you're playing something like Fiesta. Even starts meaning everybody spawns into the match exactly the same. All spawn in with the same weapon or weapons, same grenades. But in Halo 4 we had custom loadouts. People could spawn in with assault rifles, battle rifles, light rifles, DMRs, plasma pistols, magnum, or the good old bolt shot, which some people refer to as like a little pocket shotgun, because it was. If you charged up that bolt shot, it acted as a shotgun. One shot and a player's dead. So essentially you could spawn into the match with a mini shotgun. A shotgun that you had to charge up. Also with Halo 4, sprint was a default mechanic that every player had, and players could still pick an armor ability. So now players had sprint plus the armor ability of their choice. One of the new abilities in Halo 4 was Promethean Vision. Promethean Vision allowed players to see through walls. We can see through walls now, guys. Couldn't see through walls in Halo 1, 2, 3, or even Reach. But now we can see through walls in Halo. And real quick, a couple other new additions to the Halo franchise that we've seen in Halo 4, which are things that many people were not a fan of, were things like no D-scope. So when players got shot now, when they were scoped in, it wouldn't D-scope them. In Halo 1, 2, 3, Reach, when you were zoomed in and you took damage, it would D-scope you. That was no longer a thing in Halo 4. Also, Halo 4 had hit markers. Halo 4 had Ordinance Drops. So kind of like they worked in the same way that kill streaks did and or score streaks did in Call of Duty. After you get a certain amount of points, you get a Ordnance Drop, you call it down, and you got 3 random items to pick from. There was a ton of RNG in the Ordnance Drops. Sometimes players would get binary rifles or incineration cannons, and sometimes players would be getting needlers and speed boost and some other weapons that were kind of lackluster. It's not hard to understand why some people would say Halo 4 felt nothing like Halo. It's pretty obvious that with Halo 4, 343 was trying to steal some fans of Call of Duty. Moving on to Halo 5, players spawn into the game with 7 different abilities. Every player spawns in with these 7 abilities. So the abilities in Halo Reach and Halo 4 drastically changed how Halo played. A lot of people didn't like them, and 343 thought it was a good idea to spawn everybody in with 7 abilities.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Oh my god, how fucking stupid are we, man? Like, Jesus. Whew. Oh god, just thinking about this, man, I'm fucking losing hope on Infinite. Holy shit. Fucking, they're giving us a grappling hook in Infinite. Fuck, man. Who the fuck was asking for the grapple hook? Who was it? Who asked for the grapple hook? Oh my god. But yeah, Halo 5, another Halo game with abilities, except they called them Spartan abilities this time instead of armor abilities. You know, that was real clever on their part. These abilities still drastically changed how Halo played, destroyed that core formula that people grown to love from Halo 1, 2, and 3. You know, it's pretty obvious how abilities can significantly alter the Halo formula. How they can significantly change the way the game plays to a point where it doesn't even feel like Halo anymore. Halo Reach, you could spawn in with invulnerability. 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 You could spawn in with a jetpack and fly. You could fly. We could fly. Halo 4, everybody had sprint. You could see through walls. You could see through walls. You could see through walls. Halo 5, every player spawns in with seven different abilities. You could sprint, slide, clamber, stabilize, spark in charge, thrust in the ground, pound, smart scope. These abilities from Halo Reach, from Halo 4, from Halo 5 destroyed Halo. This destroyed Halo's core formula. Halo 5 plays nothing like Halo should. There are other games from completely different franchises that feel more like Halo than Halo 5 does. I am working on a video where I discuss in detail why I feel that the abilities in Halo 5 drastically change Halo's gameplay to a point where it doesn't even feel like Halo anymore. I'm working on that video, so we're not gonna dive too deep into that right now. But like I said, it's pretty obvious how these abilities drastically changed Halo. Okay, so we've covered Halo 1 through 3. How Bungie evolved those games properly. We discussed what went wrong with Halo Reach, Halo 4, and Halo 5. Now, I would like to give my thoughts and ideas on how I feel Halo can evolve while maintaining the magical formula that made the first 3 games so great. So, as I said, most of my ideas relate to map design, but the first thing I would like to discuss has nothing to do with map design. So, one way to give players a new and refreshing experience when playing Halo, a way to change and evolve the game while preserving those core fundamentals, I believe could be the addition of a secondary or alternate fire for most of, if not all, of the weapons. So what do I mean by secondary or alternate fire? Well, I'm thinking something similar to the plasma pistol. If you tap the trigger with the plasma pistol, you just fire one shot. If you keep tapping it really fast, you'll shoot faster and faster, but you're shooting a single shot that's pretty weak. If you hold the trigger down, you charge up the plasma pistol, and when you let go of the trigger, the gun will discharge a more powerful ball of energy that will drain a player's shields. So you have the primary fire, which is just the weak single shot, and the secondary fire, where you charge up the plasma pistol, and it drains player shields. And I don't know how many other weapons have a secondary fire mode in Halo. I mean, you got things like the rocket launcher from Halo 2 could lock on vehicles. In Halo Reach, you also had the rocket launcher that could lock on air vehicles. I don't know if you would count a lock-on feature as a secondary fire, but maybe. You have the grenade launcher in Halo Reach. If you press the trigger once, you shoot a grenade and it'll explode. If you hold the trigger down, the grenade won't explode until you let off the trigger. In Halo 4, you had the light rifle, and I would consider this like a true alternate fire. Unscoped with the light rifle, it was a 3 burst, and when you scoped in, it was only a 1 burst, but it did more damage, and the rate of fire was slower. Then of course we also had the bolt shot from Halo 4, which was kinda similar to the plasma pistol in the sense that if you tap the trigger, the weapon fired once, and if you held the trigger down, it would charge the weapon up. And when it comes to Halo 5, I can't even remember because I don't play that game, and I have no idea about all the different rec weapons in that game. Maybe there were some alternate fires with some of those weapons, I don't know. Oh, but I did just remember the plasma caster from Halo 5. When you had that weapon, if you tapped the trigger, you would shoot these little balls of energy that would explode, and when you held the trigger down, it would charge it up and release a larger, more powerful ball of energy that would explode. So there have been a few weapons in Halo that had 2 different firing modes, and I believe in Bungie's Halo that the plasma pistol might have been the only one, unless you want to count the rocket launcher and the grenade launcher and things like that, or I could be forgetting something. But I'm saying, in a new Halo game, give every weapon 2 different firing modes. Like, I think that could be a nice addition to Halo. In Halo 2, we got dual wielding. Dual wielding was huge. People loved it. In a new Halo game, we could get both primary and secondary fire modes for all weapons. Now, before you guys freak out, let me be clear. When I'm saying I would like to see a secondary fire mode for most, if not all of the weapons in a new Halo game, I'm not saying it has to be anything too crazy, nothing over the top, right? I'm not saying let's slap a grenade launcher on the battle rifle and the grenade explodes on impact. I'm not saying that. No. The secondary fire can be as simple as zooming in with the battle rifle and now it's a single shot. And even with that example right there, you might think that's kind of lame, but I actually thought about that. With the battle rifle, having the primary fire, the 3-burst shot, as you know, we all know. But how about when you zoom in with the battle rifle, what if it was a single burst? Maybe the single burst shots do more damage, maybe they do less, maybe the rate of fire is faster, maybe it's slower. I don't know. But I was thinking, maybe the benefit of zooming in with the battle rifle and having that single burst is that the bullet goes to the center of the reticle every single time. So yeah, it's only 1 shot as opposed to 3, but it's more accurate. Like, as we know with the battle rifle, especially in Halo 3, there's a RNG bullet spread to it. And sometimes when you're shooting at players at longer distances, even when zoomed in with the Halo 3 battle rifle, which, you know, ironically, that actually makes the bullet spread worse by zooming in. It's weird. But shooting at a distance with the battle rifle in Halo 3 isn't the most reliable thing in the world. I like bullet spread. I want a bullet spread. A somewhat wide bullet spread, similar to how it is in Halo 3, but I'm not a fan of RNG bullet spread. There's a difference. But hey, maybe you have a battle rifle like the one in Halo 3, except when you zoom in with it, it's a single shot where the bullet goes to the center of the reticle every time. There would be a benefit to that, because the Halo 3 battle rifle can be very unreliable at longer distances at times. But by zooming in, you get that single shot, center of the reticle, and like the trade-off here is that, you know, it's only 1 shot, but at least it's more accurate. You know what I mean? Now, maybe that's not the best idea, right? Maybe it's not perfect. And I mean, all of my ideas probably won't be perfect. They might need to be tweaked a little bit, but they are just ideas. There's room for a little bit of play here. There's some give and take, you know? I'm not claiming that my ideas are perfect, but I do think I'm onto something here. Another weapon that I briefly thought about for a secondary fire mode was the plasma rifle. So maybe with the plasma rifle, it has its normal primary fire, and maybe with the secondary fire, maybe it's also, maybe the plasma rifle can also be charged up. Kind of like the plasma pistol. I mean, that would make sense. They're both Covenant weapons. Maybe you could also charge up that plasma rifle. But how do we make the plasma rifle's charged shot different from the plasma pistol? Well, I was thinking, what if it was something like you charge up the plasma rifle, once you let go of the trigger, the gun releases this purple, electric-looking ball of energy, similar to the way the plasma caster is in Halo 5 when you charge that up. I'm thinking something similar to that. And maybe the velocity, the travel time on this ball of energy is somewhat slower. It's not, significantly slower. I'm kind of thinking like that, I don't know how many of you have played Destiny, but you know the Nova Bomb that the Warlock has? The one that travels slowly. People called it the Slova Bomb, I believe. I was thinking something like that. So maybe this ball of energy is slowly traveling through the map, whatever direction you shot it in, and once it hits a surface or it hits a player, it can explode and drain the shields of all the players in a certain radius. And of course, a charged shot like that should drain the plasma rifle's battery faster. Now, some of you might say that secondary fire mode that I just described for the plasma rifle, you might say it's kind of pointless. You might say it's kind of dumb, but I don't think so. I think it adds variety to the game. Variety while still maintaining Halo's core fundamentals. Like dual wielding in Halo 2. A lot of people love dual wielding. It was a big thing, but at the end of the day, the best players weren't really dual wielding. You didn't really need to dual wield to succeed in that game. Sometimes you were at a disadvantage if you were dual wielding. Dual wielding was kind of just there, if you know what I mean. Like if you were trying to succeed, if you were trying to win, dual wielding wasn't really always the best option. And yet, a lot of people still loved it, and it added a ton of variety to the game. You know, sometimes when I'm playing Halo, I'll dual wield just for the hell of it, just because it's fun. Just to mix it up, instead of using the battle rifle the whole time. You know what? Fuck it, I'm going to pick up a plasma rifle and an SMG. And it's fun. So I think secondary fire modes for weapons could be a good addition for Halo. I think alternate fire modes could play a similar role to dual wielding in Halo 2 and Halo 3. Like, you know, it's not something that's super crucial. You don't have to do it. It's not overpowered by any means. It's kind of just there, but players enjoy it. It's fun, and it adds variety. Now, I could sit here all day and think of different secondary fire modes for all the weapons in Halo, but I don't think that's necessary. I've made my case, and I will leave the speculation on that to you guys. But I honestly feel like this would be a good addition to Halo. Again, the secondary fire mode, it doesn't have to be anything crazy or OP. It could be something very simple. But I think it would add variety, and variety in this sense, I'd say, is a good thing. And you know, like I said, this could fill the role of dual wielding. Like if dual wielding isn't coming back in Infinite, that's what the alternate fire mode for weapons could be instead. We don't have dual wielding, but hey, we do have this. Honestly, I would prefer dual wielding and like an alternate fire mode for all the weapons, but if there wasn't going to be dual wielding, then I think this would be the next best thing. So that's my first idea. That's one good way I think Halo can change without ruining what made the first 3 games so great. The next idea I want to discuss is, ironically, abilities. Armor abilities, Spartan abilities, whatever you want to call them. I'm talking sprint, I'm talking thrust, shit, maybe even jetpack. So my idea for abilities is place them on the map. Place them on the map as pickups. And these abilities, and that it's different from equipment, because equipment, it's just this one-time use thing that can be destroyed. Maybe with the abilities, when you pick up, let's say you pick up thrust placed on the map, right? And you don't have to have every ability placed on every map, right? So these ability pickups aren't going to be too intrusive to the game. Well, at least that's not how I'm imagining them. I'm thinking like you'll have a couple ability pickups on one map, maybe one pickup on another map, maybe none on a different map, who knows? But let's say there was a thrust ability on the map, right? A player picks it up. Maybe I would like these abilities to kind of act in a similar way that the overshield, the camo power-ups do. So maybe when players pick up this thrust ability, they have a limited time to use it. Maybe that means 30 seconds to use the thrust ability before it's gone. Maybe there's a little bar on screen that goes down. Once it runs out, the ability's done. Or maybe when you pick up the thrust ability, you have like, I don't know, 10 thrust. You can thrust 10 times before it's gone. So you could hold that ability in forever, but once you die, or once you use the 10 thrust, then it's gone. Maybe when you die, the ability drops on the ground right where you were killed, or maybe the ability is just gone, kind of like when you kill a player with camo or overshield. It's just gone after that. You know, these are things to think about. I don't know exactly the best way to implement this, but these are just ideas. And also, one thing I would like to add is, if this did become a reality, if there were abilities that could be picked up on the map, I was also thinking like, give other players a way to know when someone has an ability. You know, like when a player picks up overshield, well, besides Halo 1, you know that they have the overshield because they're glowing. Visually, you can see that a player has the overshield. Same thing with camo. If a player has camo and you spot them, you can see that they have the camo ability. So maybe with these armor abilities placed on the map, or Spartan abilities, maybe when a player picks them up, they have a faint glow to them, right? Maybe they glow yellow when they pick up thrust. Maybe they glow, I don't know, purple when they pick up sprint. I don't know, something like that. So that's my idea for abilities. If 343 really wants abilities in the game, I think that would be the best way to implement them. I think spawning everybody in the game with seven abilities is one of the worst ways.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
Okay, so we discussed alternate fire modes for weapons. We discussed abilities placed on the map. Now I want to talk about map design. I feel one of the best ways to keep Halo feeling new and refreshing, and this could go for many different first-person shooters, is be more creative with the maps. Maps are such a huge thing to me when it comes to first-person shooters. Like, if the maps are bad, it's going to be hard to enjoy the game. Like, Halo 3 is my favorite game of all time, but if I'm playing on a bad map, I don't want to be playing at all. Like, if I'm on a bad map, it's hard to have fun. So I know earlier in the video we talked about things that were added to the maps with Halo 2, and then with Halo 3 we talked about the gravity lifts, the man cannons, and I would like to see a newer Halo game follow suit. Give us new ways to traverse the map. I want maps to be more unique and special, and I want all maps to play different from one another. Other than the layout of the map, I want to see more variety when you're moving from map to map to map to map. I want there to be things on the map that make it stand out. Like, I want to be able to say, oh, this is the map with that. This is the map with this thing. Oh, this is the map where you got to do this. I want the maps to be more unique. So we've seen teleporters, we've seen gravity lifts, we've seen man cannons, we've seen conveyors and things like that, but let's keep it going. What else can we do? Well, one thing I was thinking of is something like this little gravity tunnel or beam or whatever you want to call this thing from this mission on Halo 2. What if there was something like this on a map? What if there was something like this, you hop on this platform and it takes you to the other side? Maybe it takes you to the other side faster than what I'm showing right now on screen. Maybe it's slower, I don't know. Or something like this. This is also from Halo 2's campaign. It's a little gravity bridge. That could be interesting. What if there was a platform on a map, such as this little platform on Epitaph that's just suspended above the center of the map? What if there was something like that where players hop onto it and either they had to press a button once they're on it, or it just automatically starts moving and it has like a designated path that platform is going to take. So players hop on it and maybe it's scripted to just move through the map, maybe not in a straight line, maybe it goes up, it goes down, it goes around wall. I don't know. I'm thinking like this. I'm thinking you hop on the platform and it'll take you to a different part of the map. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe when players hop off of the platform and nobody's on it, it starts moving back to its starting position, or maybe it'll continue all the way to the end until it gets to its ending position before it'll actually go back to the start. I know some of this might seem oddly specific, but this is just what I'm imagining. I also think it would be cool to make maps more dynamic. I know in Advanced Warfare, I believe it was Advanced Warfare, where I think they had what they called map evolution or whatever, where like the map would change. It was like the map was just scripted to change like halfway through the game or something like that. And I'm not necessarily thinking like that, where there's just a change that happens on its own, like it's scripted to happen, but maybe there's more. You know how like on Standoff, you have the buttons inside the base. You press the button, the base opens. Last Resort, same thing. You press the button, the barricades go down. Longshore, you press the button, the bridge extends. Like we said earlier, there's a bridge on Zanzibar or Last Resort. You destroy the little lock, the button on it, the bridge falls down, creates a new path on the map. High Ground, you press the button to open up the front gate. Halo 4 on that map Vertigo, if you actually shoot that little button on either base, it's EMPs that base. And you know, that's kind of where my mind is at. I'm not necessarily saying add more buttons, maybe, but like, or maybe there's partially destructible environments. Maybe there are things that can be destroyed if they take enough damage, and that'll change the map up a little bit. Just a little bit. And, you know, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Again, this is something that would add variety. And I don't think it would be a bad addition to the game. And with more variety, it's going to take longer for that map to become stale. And another idea that I had that is still map design, but also kind of relates back to abilities, is another way that you could do the whole ability thing, if 343 really wants there to be abilities in Halo. What if there was like sections of the map where certain abilities could be used? So for example, maybe there's like a 0G area of the map, zero gravity, kind of like on the map Zealot, you go out up top, it's zero gravity, or outside in space. On the map Anchor 9 from Halo Reach, 0G. In the center of the map Condemned, also Halo Reach, zero gravity. What if there was some zero gravity zones on some maps, and in those zero gravity zones, players could use thrust, right? I'm not saying it's a pickup on the map. Maybe people have thrust at all times, but you can only use it in 0G zones. Zero gravity zones, they're only a thing on certain maps. When you enter them, then you're able to jump around and thrust. Like, I mean, just think of Halo Reach Condemned. Everybody goes into the middle. It's zero gravity, you're jumping around, but maybe you can thrust as well, only when you're in those zones. You know, that could be a decent idea. So that's pretty much it. I could sit here and keep giving more ideas that are kind of along the same lines of things I've already discussed. And I hope I did a decent job of conveying my ideas to you guys. So these are just a few ways I believe Halo could evolve while maintaining those core fundamentals that made Halo 1 through 3 so great. I don't think these ideas that I proposed drastically change Halo's gameplay, especially not to a point where it doesn't even feel like Halo anymore, kind of like Halo 5.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
And I know all my ideas might not be perfect, and maybe I didn't explain it as best I could, but just know what I'm picturing in my head doesn't seem bad for Halo. And like I said, obviously some of my ideas need to be tweaked a little bit, right? These are just ideas. So that's going to do it for this one, guys. I'm sure this video is a lot longer than it needed to be, but that's, you know, a theme with all my videos, so be it. I really want to know what you guys thought about this video. What do you think about my ideas? What are some of your own? What other way? I really am curious. Like, what other ways do you think Halo could evolve while staying true to its core formula? Just let me know in the comments. I'll definitely be reading them. And yeah, that's just about it. Thanks for watching, guys. I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody. Actually, one more thing I wanted to say before this video ends. I understand this video may have seemed a little weird, and some of the ideas that I put forward may have seemed strange or oddly specific, but I'm not necessarily saying any of those things need to be in a new Halo game. That's not what I'm saying. I was just throwing out some ideas as to how you could change Halo, make it feel new and refreshing without destroying its core fundamentals. You know, unlike what 343 did with Halo 5 with all the abilities that drastically changed the game.
Go, go, Power Rangers!
So that's basically what this video was for. I'm not saying that all those ideas were phenomenal and they need to be in the next Halo game. No, I wasn't saying that. I'm just saying, hey, these are some ideas that might be good, and with those changes, Halo's core formula would still be intact. And you know, something I noticed is when people speculate about evolving Halo, a lot of people are thinking about abilities. Everyone is looking at abilities. It doesn't have to be about abilities. You don't need abilities to evolve the game. You don't. And if 343 wants to give players new and unique ways to move around the map, well, like I said in the video, do more to the maps themselves rather than the base movement mechanics. So anyways, now I'm finished. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I will see you on the next one. Peace out, everybody.